5 years ago, I was making decent money, but somehow always felt broke. My closet was full of clothes I never wore. My garage was stuffed with equipment I used maybe twice, and my bank account seemed to drain faster than I could fill it, despite earning more than most people around me. I had fallen into the trap that catches millions of people every year, the trap of believing that income determines wealth when it's actually the opposite. What you keep matters infinitely more than what you earn. And what you keep is determined almost entirely by how you think about stuff. The average American household contains over 300,000 items. 300,000, that's not a typo. And here's the uncomfortable truth that nobody wants to admit. Most of those items were purchased with money that could have been invested, compounding quietly in the background, building actual wealth instead of collecting dust in closets and garages and storage units that cost even more money to maintain. Minimalism isn't about deprivation or living with nothing or becoming some kind of monk who rejects all material possessions. It's about intentionality. It's about making sure that everything you own, everything you spend money on, everything you give your attention to actually adds value to your life instead of silently draining your wealth, your time, and your mental energy. Over the past 5 years, I've developed 50 rules that fundamentally change my relationship with money, stuff, and how I spend both. These aren't theories I read in a book somewhere. They're principles I've tested in my own life, adjusted when they didn't work, and refined until they became automatic behaviors that build wealth without requiring constant willpower. You don't need to implement all 50. Pick 5 or 10 that resonate with you and actually follow through on them. That alone will put you ahead of 90% of people who consume content like this and do absolutely nothing with it. Let's start with the rules that changed everything. The 2-day rule. This applies to any habit you're trying to build, especially financial habits. The principle is simple. Never skip twice. If you're trying to track your spending daily, it's fine to miss one day. Life happens. But don't let that one day become 2 days, then 3 days, then a month of not tracking anything. The same applies to investing, budgeting, checking your accounts, whatever financial behavior you're trying to establish. Missing once is human. Missing twice is the beginning of quitting, the nightly reset. Every night before bed, spend 5 minutes putting your physical space back in order. Dishes in the dishwasher, items back where they belong, surfaces cleared. This sounds like it has nothing to do with money until you realize that cluttered spaces create cluttered minds. And cluttered minds make impulsive financial decisions. When you wake up to chaos, you start the day stressed, and stressed people spend money trying to feel better. A 5-minute reset prevents that cycle before it starts. The 80-20 inventory. Research consistently shows that people use about 20% of their possessions 80% of the time. The other 80% just sits there, representing money that's already been spent and can never be recovered. Go through your house with this lens. Identify the 20% you actually use regularly. Everything else is a candidate for removal and a lesson about what not to buy in the future. Every item you donated or sold represents a past financial mistake you can learn from. The 20-20 rule for decluttering decisions. If you can replace something for under $20 in under 20 minutes, just let it go. Stop holding on to backup items and just-in-case purchases that you might need someday. The mental cost of storing, organizing, and thinking about all that stuff exceeds the replacement costs by orders of magnitude. This rule makes decluttering decisions instant instead of agonizing. The donation box system. Keep a box somewhere in your house at all times. As you move through your daily life and encounter items you no longer use or need, drop them in the box immediately instead of putting them back. Once a month, donate the box without looking inside. This creates a continuous flow of stuff leaving your house, which means a continuous reminder of past spending mistakes, which means fewer future spending mistakes. Investing in experiences over stuff. Research from Cornell University and other institutions consistently shows that experiences create more lasting happiness than material purchases. The happiness from buying a new thing fades quickly as you adapt to having it. This is called hedonic adaptation. But memories from experiences actually become more valuable over time as you remember them fondly and forget the minor inconveniences. Redirect your discretionary spending toward travel, learning, relationships, and activities rather than objects. The home rule: everything you own should have a designated place where it lives. When items don't have homes, they end up on counters, floors, tables, and chairs. Visual clutter creates mental clutter. Mental clutter creates decision fatigue. Decision fatigue leads to poor financial choices. The chain seems indirect until you realize how many impulse purchases happen because someone was mentally exhausted from dealing with chaos all day. Automation over willpower. Automate every financial behavior that should happen regularly: bill payments, investment contributions, savings transfers, subscription management. Willpower is a finite resource that depletes throughout the day. Every decision you have to make about money is a decision that could go wrong when you're tired, stressed, or emotional. Automation removes the possibility of failure by removing the decision entirely. Understanding opportunity costs viscerally, not just intellectually. Every time you say yes to spending money on something, you're saying no to everything else that money could have become. That $60 dinner isn't just $60. It's also the $150 that money would have grown into over 20 years if invested. It's the freedom that comes from having more financial cushion. It's the options that come from having more resources. Train yourself to see both sides of every spending decision: the visible purchase and the invisible opportunity cost. Scheduled unavailability. Block specific times when you're completely unreachable. No phone, no notifications, no interruptions. During these periods, you can do deep work, think clearly, or simply exist without input. This matters financially because most impulse spending happens when we're distracted, bored, or seeking stimulation. Scheduled focus time reduces the random browsing that leads to random buying. Single tasking for everything, including financial decisions. Multitasking reduces cognitive performance by up to 40%. According to research from Stanford and other institutions, when you try to manage your finances while doing 3 other things, you make worse decisions. Block dedicated time for financial tasks, reviewing accounts, planning purchases, evaluating investments, and do nothing else during that time. Engineering your environment to reduce decision fatigue. We make thousands of decisions daily, and each one depletes our mental resources slightly. By the end of the day, we're making worse choices simply because we're exhausted from deciding all day. Reduce trivial decisions wherever possible. Wear similar clothes, eat similar meals, follow similar routines. Save your decision-making capacity for choices that actually matter, like how to allocate your money. Recognizing and overcoming sunk cost bias. Just because you spent money on something doesn't mean you should keep using it, wearing it, or storing it. The money is already gone regardless of what you do with the item. Keeping things you don't use because you paid for them just adds ongoing costs: storage space, mental overhead, visual clutter, to the original loss. Let go of things based on their current value to your life, not their historical costs. Win stacking for financial identity. Every time you make a good financial decision, no matter how small, you're casting a vote for the kind of person you want to become. Skip the impulse purchase. 1 vote for being financially disciplined. Invest instead of spending. 1 vote for being a wealth builder. Check your budget before buying. 1 vote for being intentional with money. Stack enough of these small wins, and you'll look back to find you've become someone who's naturally good with money, not because of willpower, but because of identity. Systematic exploration of what actually makes you happy. Most people spend money on categories because they always have, not because those purchases actually deliver satisfaction. Systematically try different approaches to entertainment, food, travel, clothing, and experiences. Track what actually made you happy versus what you thought would make you happy. Use that data to redirect future spending toward higher return investments in your own well-being. The periodic Great Reset. Every few months, audit your entire financial and physical life. Cancel subscriptions you're not using. Sell or donate possessions that have accumulated. Review your spending categories and ask if they still align with your priorities. Do a no-spend month where you buy nothing except absolute necessities. These resets prevent the gradual drift that leads most people to financial mediocrity. Treating social media as a financial threat, social media platforms are specifically designed to show you content that triggers spending. Influencers promoting products, ads targeted based on your browsing history, friends displaying purchases that trigger comparison and envy. Limit your exposure deliberately. Every minute you spend scrolling is a minute you're exposed to sophisticated psychological manipulation designed to separate you from your money. Scheduled and limited screen time. Beyond social media specifically, screens in general facilitate spending. Online shopping is frictionless. Entertainment subscriptions stack up. Digital purchases feel less real than physical ones. Set specific times when screens are allowed and specific times when they're not. The default should be off with exceptions rather than on with occasional breaks. Replacing passive consumption with active creation, watching television, scrolling social media, and playing video games cost money directly through subscriptions and equipment, but they also cost money indirectly through the consumption mindset they create. Active pursuits, building things, exercising, learning skills, creating art, build an identity as a producer rather than a consumer. Producers accumulate wealth, consumers deplete it. Managing attention as carefully as you manage money. Attention is arguably more valuable than money because it's absolutely finite. You can always earn more money, but you can never get more time or attention. Every hour you spend consuming content or browsing products is an hour you're not spending on things that build wealth, health, or relationships. Guard your attention jealously. Allocate it deliberately. Treat it as the scarce resource it actually is. The 90% rule for all decisions. If something isn't a 90% yes, if it's not a heck yes, then it's a no. This applies to purchases, commitments, opportunities, relationships, everything. Mediocre choices crowd out great ones. By saying no to anything that isn't clearly excellent, you create space for the things that actually deserve your money and attention. Assuming that popular choices are probably wrong for you, most Americans have credit card debt. Most Americans are overweight. Most Americans report being stressed about money. Most Americans have less than $1,000 in emergency savings. If you follow the default path that most people follow, you'll end up where most people end up. Deliberately question mainstream assumptions about what you should buy, how you should spend, and what success looks like. Resisting upgrade culture. The entire consumer economy is designed to make you feel like what you have isn't good enough. New phone models every year, new car models, new fashion seasons, new versions of products you already own that work perfectly fine. Resist the upgrade cycle deliberately. Use things until they actually stop working, not until something newer exists. The 24-hour rule for non-essential purchases. Before buying anything that isn't necessary and time-sensitive, wait 24 hours, put it in your cart, and close the browser. Write it on a list and revisit tomorrow. The majority of impulse purchases won't survive this cooling-off period because they were never about the item. They were about the momentary desire to buy something. Calculating cost per use before purchasing. A $100 item you use twice costs $50 per use. A $300 item you use 300 times costs $1 per use. Price tags lie about actual value. Cost per use reveals it. Before any significant purchase, estimate realistically how many times you'll actually use the item. If the cost per use seems high, reconsider. Conducting weekly subscription audits. The subscription economy is designed to extract money from you continuously with minimal friction. Companies know that most people sign up and forget. Schedule a weekly or monthly review of every recurring charge. Cancel anything you haven't used recently or don't anticipate using soon. The average American has more subscription services than they realize and uses fewer than they think. Maintaining a 30-day purchase list. When you want to buy something non-essential, write it on a list with a date. If you still want it 30 days later, consider buying it. Most items won't last 30 days on the list because the desire was temporary. This simple system filters out the majority of unnecessary spending without requiring constant willpower. Designing your physical environment to discourage spending. Unsubscribe from retail emails. Delete shopping apps from your phone. Avoid malls and shopping centers. Don't browse online stores for entertainment. Remove saved credit cards from websites. Each friction point you add between yourself and purchasing reduces the likelihood of impulsive spending. Make buying things slightly harder, and you'll naturally buy fewer things. Conducting an annual energy audit on your finances. Look at your bank and credit card statements from the past year. Categorize every expense. Calculate what percentage went to housing, transportation, food, entertainment, and other categories. Compare to what you think should be going to each category. The gap between reality and intention reveals where your money's actually going versus where you want it to go. Applying the time equals money calculation to all purchases. Calculate your true hourly wage after taxes, commuting costs, work-related expenses, and decompression time. Then price every purchase in hours of life energy instead of dollars. That $200 item costs however many hours of your life it takes to earn $200 after all expenses. This reframing makes the true cost viscerally clear. The one-in, one-out rule for possessions. Every time something new enters your house, something old must leave. This maintains equilibrium and forces you to consider whether the new item is actually better than something you already own. If you can't identify anything to remove, maybe you don't need the new thing. Taking it further with the one-in, two-out rule. If you're trying to actively reduce possessions, for every item you bring in, 2 items leave. This creates negative accumulation over time and forces even more intentional purchasing decisions. Embracing boredom as productive time. The urge to fill every moment with stimulation leads to spending money on entertainment, food, experiences, and distractions. Boredom isn't something to escape. It's space for creativity, reflection, and planning. When you learn to be comfortable with nothing happening, you stop spending money trying to make something happen. Building clear boundaries between work and personal life. When work bleeds into all hours, you're more likely to spend money on convenience, stress relief, and rewards for putting up with the chaos. Clear work boundaries create mental space that reduces compensatory spending and allows for better financial decisions. Conducting regular digital decluttering sessions. Your digital life affects your physical spending. Organize your files. Clean your desktop. Delete unused apps. Unsubscribe from emails. Clear your downloads folder. Digital chaos creates mental chaos, and mental chaos leads to poor financial choices. Turning off almost all notifications. Every notification is an interruption designed by someone else to capture your attention. Most of these attention grabs eventually lead to spending opportunities, whether directly through ads and offers or indirectly through the stress and distraction they create. Turn off everything except genuine emergencies from people who actually matter. Using the 2-minute rule for small tasks. If something takes less than 2 minutes, do it immediately. This prevents the accumulation of small tasks that create mental overhead and stress. Stressed people spend more money. Reducing background stress reduces spending. Ignoring minimalist gatekeeping about item counts. Some people claim you're only a real minimalist if you own fewer than 100 items or 50 items or whatever arbitrary number. Ignore this completely. Minimalism isn't about achieving a specific count. It's about removing what doesn't add value so you can better appreciate what does. Focus on function, not fashion. The 90-90 rule for decluttering decisions. If you haven't used something in the last 90 days and don't expect to use it in the next 90 days, you can safely remove it from your life. This provides a clear decision framework that works for most possessions. Choosing quality over quantity deliberately. Buying one excellent item that lasts 10 years is almost always cheaper than buying 5 mediocre items that each last 2 years. The upfront price is higher, but the total cost over time is lower. This applies to clothes, appliances, furniture, tools, and almost everything else. Buy less, buy better. Maintaining a capsule wardrobe. Limit yourself to a small number of versatile, high-quality clothing items that all work together. This eliminates the nothing to wear problem despite having closets full of clothes. Reduces decision fatigue every morning and dramatically cuts clothing spending over time. Meal planning as a financial strategy. Decide what you'll eat for the week before going to the grocery store. Buy only what you need for those meals. This eliminates food waste, reduces impulse purchases at the store, and cuts the expensive fallback of ordering delivery when you don't know what to make. Recognizing lifestyle creep and fighting it actively. As income rises, spending tends to rise automatically to match. This is why high earners often have little savings. They just spend at higher levels. Deliberately keep your lifestyle below your income by increasing savings rates whenever income increases. Lifestyle creep is the enemy of wealth building. Saving windfalls completely. When unexpected money arrives, tax refunds, bonuses, gifts, inheritance, save or invest 100% of it. This money was never part of your regular budget, so you won't miss spending it. Windfall saving is one of the fastest ways to build wealth because it's essentially painless. Understanding that comparison is the thief of financial joy. Other people's spending is irrelevant to your financial situation. Their income, expenses, goals, and constraints are different from yours. Comparing your financial progress to others leads either to complacency if you seem ahead or despair if you seem behind. Focus only on whether you're making progress relative to your own past self. Tracking net worth monthly, not income. Income is a vanity metric. Net worth, assets minus liabilities, is the metric that actually measures wealth. Someone earning $60,000 who invests consistently will eventually be wealthier than someone earning $200,000 who spends everything. Track what matters. Calculating the true cost of ownership for major purchases. A car doesn't cost its sticker price. It costs the sticker price plus insurance, fuel, maintenance, parking, registration, depreciation, and opportunity cost on the invested capital. A house doesn't cost the purchase price. It costs the purchase price plus interest, taxes, insurance, maintenance, utilities, and furnishing. Always calculate full cost of ownership, not just acquisition cost. Treating your health as your highest return investment. Medical expenses bankrupt more Americans than any other cause. Preventive health, exercise, nutrition, sleep, stress management costs relatively little, but reduces lifetime healthcare costs dramatically. Every dollar invested in staying healthy pays returns far exceeding any financial investment. Being selfish about protecting your financial foundation. You cannot help others effectively from a position of financial weakness. Build your own stability first, then expand your generosity. On an airplane, you put on your own oxygen mask before helping others. The same principle applies to finances. Remembering that minimalism is ultimately about freedom, not restriction. Every dollar you don't spend on stuff you don't need is a dollar that buys freedom, freedom from debt, freedom from financial stress, freedom to quit jobs you hate, freedom to take risks on opportunities you love, freedom to help people who need it, freedom to live according to your own values rather than the consumption pattern society pushes on you. These 50 rules represent years of refinement and thousands of small experiments in my own life. Some of them will resonate immediately. Others might seem extreme or unnecessary for your situation. The point isn't to follow all 50 rigidly. It's to find the principles that work for your specific circumstances and implement them consistently over time. Wealth isn't built through a single dramatic action. It's built through thousands of small decisions made slightly better than average, compounded over years and decades. Every time you pause before a purchase, resist an upgrade, choose experience over stuff, or question whether something actually adds value to your life, you're casting another vote for financial freedom. The person you are 5 years from now will be shaped largely by the habits you build today. The rules that seem small and insignificant in the moment are exactly the rules that create massive outcomes over time. Start with one rule, master it until it's automatic, then add another, then another. The compound effect applies to habits just like it applies to money. Small changes consistently applied create results that look like magic from the outside, but are actually just math. You don't need to overhaul your entire life this week. You just need to start. Pick one rule. If these rules have changed the way you look at the clutter in your life and the potential of your bank account, please subscribe and like the channel. We are uncovering the hidden mechanics of wealth and intentional living that the world tries to keep buried. Start building your freedom today. The next chapter of your financial journey will begin soon.